What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Iron King Inc. YouTube channel. A little bit different video for you guys today. Behind me, my 1996 Nissan GQ Patrol. And today we're going to talk a little bit about it. Kind of how I got this thing, some of its features, and why this thing was banned from ever being imported into the United States. Now, I know I've got a ton of viewers from around the world, but most of you guys are from the United States, and you're probably wondering, what the heck is a Nissan Patrol? Well, basically everywhere else in the entire world got the Nissan Patrol except the United States. So this would be like Nissan's version of the Toyota Land Cruiser. It's four-wheel drive. It has an inline-six turbo diesel engine. This one is spec'd out with an automatic 4-speed transmission, but they were also available in a 5-speed. I have modified this truck a bit. Stock configuration, this is a wagon. Now I've chopped the back off of it and put a aluminum tray on the back to make it more useful for what I do. So the Nissan Patrol is obviously kind of a tough car to find in the United States since they were never imported here. So I had to jump through a few hoops to get this one. What I ended up doing was going to a Japanese auction site, looking through the vehicles. I found this one that was available, and I started bidding on it. It was as simple as going on their website, registering, getting set up on their auction, and using a broker to bid on the vehicle for me, then eventually import the vehicle into the United States, and then pick it up from the dock, drive it home. It was really that easy. So as I'm talking about the auctions, I'm pretty sure most of you may have heard of the 25-year import rule, which if some of you haven't, I'll explain it now. So basically what the EPA and government came up with was, if a vehicle is over 25 years of age, it does not need to meet EPA or safety regulations that would need to be met for any vehicle newer than 25 years imported into the United States. And that's sort of the loophole, not really, of how I got it. So as long as it's over 25 years old, you can usually import the vehicle into the United States without it having to meet special and strict emissions and safety standards. In the early 1950s, we got the Nissan Patrol for about 7 years, and then it sort of fell off the market until 2015, 2016, when they came back with the Infiniti and when they came back with the Nissan Altima. However, it's a far cry of what the Nissan Patrol actually is. So the Nissan Patrol was available in a lot of markets outside of the United States, mostly in countries where there's not a lot of infrastructure, where they need something very reliable to drive. And this thing, having a mechanical diesel engine, usually came with a 5-speed behind it. This is a little bit different because this one came out of Japan, so it's got the upgraded automatic transmission. But the Nissan Patrol is basically designed to be a rugged competitor of the Toyota Land Cruiser. So now, why did I buy this truck? So you could be saying, Quentin, why didn't you just go buy a Land Cruiser? Why didn't you just go buy a Jeep? Something that's already in the United States, that has a huge parts network, that's reliable and relatively cheap to own. Well, I mean, the answer is pretty simple. I wanted something different that you don't see every day on the road. And I'll be honest, I've never seen another one of these, especially in the US. I've seen a few in Australia, or actually a lot in Australia. I've seen a lot in the UK, South America, but I've never seen another Patrol in the United States driving down the road. That's why I got this thing, because it's cool. There's really no other way to put it. It's a cool vehicle to have, and not a lot of them are out there. Now, a major thing that sets this vehicle apart, other than obviously not being imported into the United States, is the power plant. A lot of vehicles in the US have gas engines, hybrids, very fuel efficient vehicles. This is an inline-six turbo diesel engine. It's a TD42. So you have all your injectors. It's turbo diesel. This is non-intercooled. So basically you have your turbo goes directly to your intake. You have glow plugs, so it's not a direct injected engine. It's got glow plugs to preheat before you go to start it to help with starting and reliability. You have a manual pump. This is your transfer pump here, and you have your mechanical fuel injection pump. Very, very simple to work on, reliable usually, and it just sets it apart from a lot of the vehicles that were available in the United States at this era. This truck also came with dual batteries standard. Again, very reliable and great for when you're going to go out into the bush, out into the woods for a long period of time and you want something to reliably start. Something that I haven't really seen in the US vehicles other than like heavy duty trucks like the F-250, the Dodge Ram, stuff with big diesel motors that need the extra cranking power. So this truck, being from Japan, was kind of an upscale model and came with an automatic transmission. It's a 4-speed with overdrive and a lockup converter, which is honestly great for highway driving. I want to say with 37-inch tires and that turbo diesel motor, I can cruise at 80 on the highway, no problems at all. Pretty simple setup. You just have your shifter right here, you have your overdrive on and off, and you have your 4-wheel drive selector right there. Pretty simple stuff. Honestly, common for what you would see in any vehicle in the United States anyway. The truck did, however, come standard with central locking, and I'll show you that. So you have your central locking here. Everything still works, pretty cool. You have locking windows, automatic windows, and everything still works, which is pretty cool for a Nissan Patrol. But you don't have things like cruise control. There's no cruising down the highway and just clicking a button. That doesn't exist in this truck. So although this was an upscale model, it really didn't meet the mark for luxury that the people from the United States demanded in that era of what a luxury vehicle should be. So even though this thing has air conditioning and airbag, it was supposed to be the upscale model, we still have mechanical seats. You still have no cruise control. What you have here is a throttle lock, so if you go to start the vehicle up, you can warm the vehicle up in the morning by pulling this throttle back and locking it into position. Definitely cool for the era, or cool for the vehicle, but not cool for what the US consumer wanted back in the day. So when I first got this truck about 2 years ago, it was completely stock. So in Japan, you're not really allowed to modify your vehicles when you buy them. They have to be pretty much factory standard for what they are. So when I picked this thing up from the Japanese auction, it had nothing. It was bare bones, stock wheels and tires, stock lift, nothing was messed with. All good for me because I knew that someone who was unqualified had never really gone in there and messed with the truck. But it also left me a lot of room to add a bunch of personal touches and modifications that I felt that the truck would need for my use. First being the ARB bull bar. So I got this thing, I want to say I actually picked this thing up from 4-Wheel Parts. The whole bull bar assembly, it did come with this winch from the factory. So when I got this truck from Japan, it actually had this winch in it, but I then modified it, put it in that bull bar, and that was kind of the first modifications that I did to the truck. Shortly after, I went ahead and I got scrub bars, which are these bars right here. Pretty common for Australia, not for what you see in the US a lot. So we have these scrub bars here. We have, I guess you could call them sort of a rock slider. I wouldn't call them that though, because they would probably not hold up the best. But I thought kind of a cool Australian throwback modification that you don't see a whole lot in the US. My favorite modification though has to probably be the aluminum MITS alloy tray. So I went and I picked this tray up from someone up in Washington that had this on a modified Land Cruiser, and then I went and remodified the modification to put it on the back of this Nissan Patrol. And as a lot of you guys know, the Nissan Patrol never came as a 4-door pickup. It was a 4-door wagon, or some of them came with a single cab and then a flatbed tray, but it was just a single cab pickup. It was not the dual cab like you see here. So this company, MITS Alloy, makes an awesome aluminum tray. It has a bunch of cool features on it, like these push button that release, and you have a bunch of doors here, pretty cool, and they just click back in. I also found this out later on when I bought this truck. I didn't even know that it had this feature, but you clicked it open, and this whole tray slides out, and it's a big giant tool tray. Pretty cool. It also has these removable sides on the bed, so if you want a true flatbed, you can simply unhook all these latches here, fold these down, and you can remove every single piece here to give it a true flatbed look. So this truck, when I got it from Japan, came with the stock wheels and tires, which I believe were about a 28-inch tire. It had a 16-inch rim, and I just wanted something a little bit different than that. I go off-road a lot, I use the truck, and I wanted something a little bit meatier and heavy duty. So I went ahead and I put a set of 37-inch Nitto trail grapplers on this truck with 17-inch trail ready bead locks. That required a full, I guess what you call like a big butterfly effect of different modifications that the truck needed once I did this conversion. So once I put these tires on, we needed to do 488 gears. So this truck obviously had stock suspension. We went and we modified the stock suspension with a full Dobinson's 4-inch lift kit. I also went with the Dobinson's fully adjustable shocks. So you have your clickers for high and low here, and you have your clickers for high and low on the low speed end right here. Pretty cool modification. And those shocks are on the truck all the way around it. It's super nice to have when you are towing or when you're driving on the highway or when you want to go off-road. You can really dial that suspension in to work with the terrain that you're driving on pretty easily. So everything's pretty standard in here other than the truck obviously being right-hand drive. Your steering wheel is the same, your pedals are the same, so your throttle is on the right, your brake is on the left. It did take some getting used to of using the shifter right here versus using your right hand. You got to use your left now to shift from drive to neutral to park. And also you have to really reach over here to get to the four-wheel drive system. So now I believe it's the question you guys have all been waiting for is, why did the government ban this truck from ever being imported into the United States? Well, the answer is pretty simple, really. It never met critical safety and emission standards that were standard for the 1996 and 1997 model year. So with the Nissan Patrol and how popular it was abroad and outside of the United States, Nissan really didn't feel the need to meet these requirements and sell this vehicle into the United States. They didn't really feel that the US consumers would buy enough of these trucks to warrant them doing a whole bunch of modifications and critical testing that would require them and allow them to enter the US. So I guess let me know what you guys feel. If you think that Nissan should have imported this truck into the United States, if you were a consumer back in 1997 and you had the choice between a Land Cruiser, a Jeep, some other four-wheel drive, would you go ahead and purchase one of these trucks over one of those? Throw it down in the comment section. I'd really like to know. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna wrap the video up right here. As always, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions about this truck, throw it down in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer it correctly. If you like seeing stuff like this, consider subscribing to my channel. I post stuff like this all the time. I will see you guys in the next one.